Quick question. When you're about to eat leftovers, how do you actually decide they're safe? Most of us do the same thing. A look, a quick smell, maybe a tiny taste if we're still unsure. If nothing seems off, we eat it. An automatic habit most people never think twice about. In 2008, a 20-year-old student in Belgium did exactly that. He reheated spaghetti he'd cooked 5 days earlier and left on the counter. It looked normal. It smelled fine. He ate it, was violently ill within the hour, and went to bed. His parents found him dead the next morning. Not because the food looked spoiled, not because it smelled wrong, because the test almost all of us trust, eyes, nose, instinct, was never built to catch what actually killed him. I'm Mike Anderson. This is Inside Health. Stay with me. By the end, you'll know exactly what your senses can't detect, what actually can, and why one of the world's biggest food companies just dealt with this same toxin. That part's coming. Your senses aren't bad at their job. They're actually excellent at it. Spoiled food usually announces itself. Sour smell, slimy texture, off taste. That's bacteria producing obvious warning chemicals, and your nose and eyes are built to catch exactly that. One very common bacteria breaks that entire rulebook. Bacillus cereus. It lives naturally on rice, pasta, and potatoes, and cooking doesn't remove it. Some of it survives as a heat-resistant spore. So what actually wakes that spore back up? Take a guess. Most people say reheating. Some say opening the fridge too often. Neither. It's time, specifically, time spent in the danger zone, roughly 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Sit there long enough, and the spores wake up, multiply, and some produce a toxin called cereulide. Picture a Sunday afternoon. A big pot of rice or pasta, cooked for the week, still faintly warm when it goes into a Tupperware, lid snapped on, wedged into an already crowded fridge shelf. Completely normal, completely well-intentioned, and exactly the kind of moment this whole mechanism depends on. Here's the trap. Cereulide has no smell, no taste, no visible sign at all. And here's what actually makes it dangerous. Researchers tested heating it to 100 degrees Celsius, then 121 degrees Celsius, then all the way to 150 degrees Celsius, well past anything a stovetop or microwave reaches, and the toxin survived every single one. The study's own conclusion was blunt. No heat treatment used anywhere in the food industry can destroy it. Reheating kills the bacteria. It does nothing to the toxin already sitting there. Which means the real question was never, does this look fine? It was, how long has this actually been sitting out? A question nobody asked about that plate of pasta. And a few years later, nobody asked it fast enough somewhere much bigger than a kitchen counter either. That's coming up. Back to that case. Documented in the Journal of Clinical Microbiology, not internet folklore. Spaghetti with tomato sauce, 5 days at room temperature, then reheated and eaten. Within an hour, severe vomiting. By morning, dead of acute liver failure. Testing found extremely high Bacillus cereus levels and elevated cereulide in the leftover pasta. I want to be straight with you about something here. Not every doctor agreed on how to read this case. A few years after it was published, another physician wrote into that same journal questioning whether B. cereus actually killed him, or just happened to be there when he died. The original researchers wrote back and stood by their conclusion. I'm telling you that disagreement existed, not hiding it, because that's what real science actually looks like. People checking each other's work, not one paper standing unquestioned forever. And it wasn't isolated. Medical literature documents at least 3 other deaths tied to this same toxin. A teenager and 2 young children. Different countries, different meals, same root cause every time. Every case. Food left too long at room temperature before it was eaten. To be clear, deaths like this are rare. Most people exposed to Bacillus cereus have a rough 24 hours and fully recover. But rare isn't zero, and the mechanism behind the mild cases is identical to the fatal ones. If this is making you reconsider your own kitchen habits, hit like now. It's the fastest way to get this in front of someone who needs it before they make the same mistake. And here's the thing about a toxin this stubborn. It doesn't stay contained to one Belgian kitchen in 2008. It shows up again. And the second time, it's not a single plate of pasta. It's a factory floor. Picture a parent right now, pulling up a recall notice on their phone and checking a batch code on the bottom of a formula tin they bought last week. That's not a hypothetical. It's happening in at least 10 countries as this video goes up. Started back in late 2025. A recall that pulled infant formula off shelves in multiple countries, Nestlé, Danone, and A2 Milk among the brands. After cereulide, the same toxin from that plate of pasta, turned up in a shared ingredient used across manufacturers. Health authorities across 10 countries have identified 144 suspected or confirmed cases, with 8 confirmed in a lab in Belgium. I want to be careful and precise about what comes next, because it matters. French health authorities are separately investigating the deaths of 2 infants who'd consumed recalled formula dye. No confirmed causal link to the toxin established at this point, and Nestlé says it's cooperating fully with that investigation. I'm not going to overstate what's still unconfirmed, and families going through that deserve better than a tidy ending that isn't true. A food safety watchdog group alleges Nestlé and Dutch regulators knew about the contamination weeks before the public recall in January. Nestlé hasn't directly disputed that timeline. Separately, one UK mother says the formula caused her baby's meningitis, a claim both Nestlé and UK health authorities say hasn't been medically confirmed or linked to the toxin. I'm giving you all of it, confirmed and still under investigation alike. To be fair, that's a manufacturing contamination question, not a reheating one. Different path, same toxin. But it proves this isn't ancient history. Regulators are watching this toxin closely, right now, in 2026, and, in at least one country, investigating something far more serious than a recall. If regulators are watching this closely at the factory level, the obvious question is, what should the rest of us be watching for at home? Good news. This is almost entirely preventable, and it has nothing to do with your microwave. The real fix is timing, not temperature. The USDA's actual rule is stricter than most people assume. Never more than 2 hours at room temperature, only 1 hour above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Bacteria in that range can double in as little as 20 minutes. That plate of pasta sat out for 5 days, 60 times past the outer edge of what's ever considered safe. Picture a summer potluck. Pasta salad out on the table. Just a bit, while everyone eats and chats. That's the textbook 90 degrees Fahrenheit. 1 hour scenario the USDA built this rule for. Your fridge needs to actually run at or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit to stop the clock. An overpacked fridge running warm doesn't do the job. Storing a big batch? Remember that crowded fridge shelf from earlier? Shallow containers cool faster than one deep pot wedged in next to everything else. And when you do reheat, steaming hot throughout, not lukewarm in the middle that kills the live bacteria. It still can't undo a toxin that's already formed, which is exactly why the cooling window matters more than the reheating step. You can't smell or taste your way out of this one. The only real safeguard is knowing the clock, not trusting your senses. If it happens anyway, vomiting usually within 30 minutes to 6 hours. Most healthy adults recover within a day. For young kids, older adults, or symptoms that are severe or don't improve, call your doctor, don't wait it out. Know someone who cooks big batches for the week? Send them this. They're the one who can actually use it. You've probably heard someone say, "I've left food out for years and never gotten sick." For most people, that's true. This is genuinely rare. But food safety isn't about odds. It's about risk management. We don't wear seatbelts because we expect to crash every drive. If you take one thing from this video, don't let your senses make the call. Let the clock make it. Your eyes catch burnt food. Your nose catches sour food. Neither can catch a toxin that's already formed and waiting. Next time you're clearing the table, skip the look and smell test. Just ask, how long has this actually been sitting out? If this changed how you think about your own leftovers, subscribe so Inside Health breaks down research clearly, without the sensationalism. I'm Mike Anderson. I'll see you in the next one.